What if Napoleon won every war? History remembers victories, but it is often shaped by defeats. In the winter of 1815, on the muddy fields near a small Belgian village called Waterloo, the fate of Europe hung by a thread. Cannons thundered. Smoke covered the battlefield. Armies collided in one final clash, and at the center of it all stood one man, a man who had risen from an unknown Corsican officer to the most powerful ruler in Europe, Napoleon Bonaparte. But history tells us something simple, that on this day, Napoleon lost, and with that defeat, an empire collapsed. But what if history had taken a different turn? What if the rain had stopped earlier? What if reinforcements had arrived sooner? What if Napoleon had won not just Waterloo, but every war he ever fought? Tonight, we redesign history. To understand this alternate world, we first need to understand Napoleon himself. Born in 1769 on the island of Corsica, Napoleon rose during the chaos of the French Revolution. At just 23 years old, he was already a general. By 30, he was the ruler of France, and by the early 1800s, his armies dominated Europe. He defeated Austria, he crushed Prussia, he reshaped entire kingdoms. The map of Europe began to bend around his will. Kings fell, empires collapsed, new nations were born. And yet, Napoleon still faced powerful enemies, especially one, an island nation that refused to surrender, United Kingdom. In our timeline, Napoleon eventually made mistakes. One of the most famous was his invasion of Russia in 1212. The campaign ended in disaster. The freezing winter destroyed his army. But imagine something different. What if the invasion succeeded? Instead of retreating from the burning ruins of Moscow, Napoleon captures the city. Moscow falls. The Russian Empire collapses. The Tsar is forced to surrender. And suddenly, Napoleon controls almost the entire European continent, from Spain to Poland to the gates of Asia. In this alternate world, Napoleon becomes something no ruler had achieved in centuries, the Emperor of Europe. Not just France, not just an empire, but an entire continent under one political system. Borders vanish, trade expands, and a revolutionary legal system spreads across Europe. The Napoleonic Code becomes the foundation of law for millions. Equality before the law, religious freedom, merit-based government, ideas that were radical at the time suddenly become the new normal. The kings of Europe disappear, and the age of dynasties fades away much earlier. But there is still one major obstacle: the British Navy. For years, Britain dominated the oceans. Their ships controlled trade routes across the world. But imagine something radical. Napoleon successfully invades Britain. London falls. London becomes the capital of a new French-controlled government. And with Britain defeated, the British Empire never rises to global dominance. That means history changes everywhere. India, Africa, Australia, North America, entire continents develop under completely different influences. French language and culture spread across the world. Instead of English becoming the global language, French might dominate diplomacy, science, and trade. A unified Europe under Napoleon would have enormous power, combined population, combined resources, combined industry. Instead of dozens of rival kingdoms fighting each other, Europe becomes one superstate. Industrialization accelerates, railways expand across the continent decades earlier, and scientific cooperation grows rapidly. Cities like Paris, Vienna, Berlin become interconnected centers of innovation. Some historians believe this could even accelerate the arrival of modern technologies, electricity, mass transportation, early aviation. A stronger, unified Europe might even dominate the 19th century long before the United States becomes a global power. Now comes the biggest question. If Napoleon unified Europe, would the world still experience the devastating conflicts of the 20th century? The causes of both world wars came largely from rivalries between European powers: France, Germany, Britain, Austria, Russia. But in our alternate timeline, these nations are no longer rivals. They are part of the same empire. No German unification wars, no Franco-Prussian War, possibly no World War I. And without World War I, the chain of events that led to World War II might never happen. The 20th century could look completely different. But every empire faces a challenge: control. Napoleon ruled through military power, and maintaining such a massive empire would be incredibly difficult. Different cultures, different languages, different identities. Rebellions would almost certainly emerge. Spain, Russia, Italy. Nationalism might eventually break the empire apart. The question isn't whether Napoleon could conquer Europe. History proves he almost did. The real question is, could he hold it? History often feels inevitable, but it rarely is. Sometimes the fate of the world changes because of a single battle, a single decision, a single day of rain on a muddy battlefield. If Napoleon had won every war, Europe might have unified a century earlier. English might not be the dominant global language, and the modern world might look almost unrecognizable. But perhaps the most fascinating truth is this: history is not just shaped by powerful leaders, it is shaped by the fragile chain of events surrounding them. And sometimes the future of the entire world depends on a single moment. What if Napoleon had never lost? How different would our world be today? If you enjoy exploring alternate histories like this, subscribe to Redesigned World, where we redesign the past to understand the future. Because sometimes changing just one moment in history can change everything.